In this video right here, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how I set up my Sony A6700 for both filmmaking and photography. And not only that, I'm also gonna show you all the customization buttons I've had and how I bind it for maximum efficiency. Alright, so firstly we'll be going over the video settings and then we move over the other stuff. So start by navigating, moving this button here to the video mode, and then let's take it to manual. Alright? Once you've done that, you are good to go. Next thing, we can just hit the menu button straight away and scroll down to the red section right here that is shooting, and we can just start by going in image quality. Then you click over there and you see file format. All right, you with me? Now, I like to film in XAVC S4K. If you do want to do higher quality, that is totally possible. Then you can go to XAVC SI 4K. Just keep in mind that if you go down that path, not only will it take up more space on your memory card, which will further lead you to buying more memory cards, which costs a whole lot, and before you know it, you'll probably be homeless and smoking crack. So for that very reason, I choose XAVC 4K, and it's pretty good. Next, go to movie settings, and we can start by having it in the 25 frames per second. You can choose 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second, depending on what you have on your screen. I'm shooting in PAL, you might be shooting in NTSC. The record shooting, I like to film in the highest possible, so it's 140M, 422, 10-bit. If you like it to take less space on your memory card, or you have a computer that ain't top of the line and it's harder for it to edit, then you can choose 100M 420 8-bit. But I'm showing you what I do, alright? You know what? I'm actually I had my glasses here, and it becomes a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. Alright, everything is in 8K resolution right now. So, we will go here in audio recording, and I want to have it on. And after that, I take the audio record level and I have it around 15, 14. You don't want to have it too much, but you don't also want to have it too low. And I think from 12 to 14, 15, that's the sweet spot. I have it on 14 right here. Rest I leave as it is. And then we can scroll even further and go to shooting display. And there I have a grid line, and I like to have the grid line on. And I like to have the rule of thirds grid line. All right? That's just the lines when I'm filming, and it's easier to, keep your composition right. It's a good little tip, Once we're happy with that, we will go down to exposure and color, and I am gonna scroll down to white balance. Now for white balance, there are two modes I shoot in. Either I go without the white balance, and that's in complete run and gun situation. These cameras nowadays are pretty accurate. However, when I'm filming longer, or I'm in the scene, for instance here, I want to have manual settings. I'm gonna scroll down here till you find this white balance Kelvin temperature, and I'm just gonna keep it on 5500. That's pure daylight, and then I switch it afterwards. And I'll show you a few tricks to do this fastly a little bit later. But we keep it like this, and then color tone, this is where the picture profiles are. And I use two different picture profiles. So if you click here, you can go down to picture profile. And the one, I can't remember what it is right off the bat, but I switched that to my S-Log3. So I shoot in S-Log3 and then S-Cinetone 2. So look at this, just change the gamma, scroll until you find S-Log3, and then the color mode, you change that to S-Gamma3 Cine, and that's it. This is going to be your picture profile 1. The picture profile 2, I like to have on S-Cinetone, and the color mode on S-Cinetone, and that's also just it. Now the difference between these is that S-Log3 is really flat, like you can see this here, and you need to color grade that. I don't always want to be bothered on color grading everything that I'm doing, and then I shoot in S-Cinetone, and S-Cinetone is great right off the bat. Now, next up, we can go down to focus section of this menu here. And by the way, ain't this great that now in the A6700 we have this menu system? The old menu system, I didn't like that. This one, ooh, I like. Now, focus mode, I have continuous autofocus, the transition speed, I've set that. I'm always playing around here, and I encourage you to do that too. I like to have it on 4 or 3, and the shift sensitivity, I have it on round 4 at the moment. This is at least what I have at the moment. And then the focus area, I like to have for filming and run and gun, I like to have zone, and then it's easy to just change where the zone is. If I need to be very specific, then I will either do manual focus, which is easy to switch to, or the screen is touch screen, so you can just click on the screen wherever you want, and it's gonna that's gonna be the focus, and it's also gonna track because you have this new AI focus on this camera. Then what we can do, subject recognition. I have subject recognition on, target recognition human, but depending on what you're shooting, this camera is like equipped with all of these. Like there are a bunch of different things that you can let the camera like have priority on recognizing, and then you have right left eye. I just have it auto. Yeah, this is just keep as is. You can have this face memory thingy too, so you can like take photos of whatever faces, and the camera is gonna know what faces those are, save them, and then keep like prioritize them. So that is a cool little feature too. And the face priority, I like to have that on too as well, especially when I know I'm shooting a lot of people, and when the people ain't in the scene, it's not gonna try to find. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's getting late here. Sorry if I ramble. Next, let's navigate to peaking display. Now by default, I like to have it off, but I'm gonna show you a little trick like a little bit later in the video how you can quickly like turn it on and off, because I think it's really nice to be able to have it when I'm filming manual, and I'll show you that in a second. But have the peaking level, I like to have it on mid, and then the peaking color, I like to have it on red, because that is the most distinguishable. I'm not so good in that word. Distinguishable. Distinguishable. You understand? It's the easiest to spot color. So I have that to red. All right. So these are like the base settings. Now I'm going to show you how I utilize these memory recall buttons here. And this is so nice when you're out there run and gun. Because here we're filming in 4K 20 FPS, I want to keep the shutter speed rule, the like 180-degree shutter speed rule, 1/50th of shutter speed. But then if you want, you can also set your aperture. This is just going to be in the memory recall. And then the next, we can set the ISO. Now I usually like to have auto ISO right off the bat when I switch between these memory recalls mode, but I'm very quick to switch it, to manual whenever needed. So if you go to the shooting section here and you scroll all the way down to shooting mode, then you can see camera set memory. We click that, and here you just click 1. So if you scroll, you can see 1, 2, and 3. These are these buttons right here. The 1 is my 25 4K FPS profile, all right? And you just click that. So whenever you're in the video mode and you switch to 1, this is the settings that you had. All right. Now, number 2, I like to have 50 FPS. And number 3, at the moment, it is 100 FPS, but I don't really use it because I have the super slow motion SNQ. So I might do something different in the future, but I'm just telling you. So what you would do then is to go back to manual now. You would go to menu, and you would change in the shooting mode in image quality, movie settings, frame rate, and you choose that to 50 FPS or 60 FPS if you're there, Record setting, the highest, and then I would change the shutter speed to like 100 or 120 if you're at 60 FPS, and then exactly the same now. Click menu, and from menu you just go shooting mode, camera record settings, and then you click the 2, you scroll there, and then you press the button, and you just press this circle here. I can't remember if I told that before. Click on it, and it's going to save that. And the third, you would do exactly the same thing if you want, and have that for 100 FPS or 120 FPS if you want, and then you just change the shutter speed. Now, before I show you the SNQ, I want to show you that if you click SN button right here, you get all of these shortcuts. And here, I change the picture profile if I need it. By default, and in my memory recall, I like to have it in S-Log3 because that's what I mostly shoot. But when I know that I don't want to color grade, then I just go FN, click here, and go on 2, and click bam, done. And also, if I need to change the white balance, then I click FN, down here, click, and then you can change the white balance according to what you need. And you also have lots of other shortcuts too. Here you have the steady shot. You do have the active steady shot too on this camera, so you can play with that too. And this is totally customizable. I just wanted to show you this. Now, let me show you the SNQ. So I've set my camera to, when I scroll to SNQ, it is by default now recording in 100 frames per second right off the bat. So it's recording in slow motion into the camera, so I don't have to slow it in like down afterwards in post. And I like that because it's just another extra button that I can utilize. So how you do that is basically when you switch to SNQ, we click menu, in shooting mode, you click image quality, SNQ settings, and here frame rate settings. I have my record frame rate to 25 frames per second. Again, you can do 24, 30, depending on what you're doing. And then the frame rate is going to be 100 frames per second. So now we're telling the camera it's gonna film into the camera in 4x slow motion, and you click on all that, enter, and then you go S&Q, and it's gonna film in 4 times slow motion straight into the camera. Now, before we go all to the photos, I want to show you a few buttons that I've binded, so I'm more fast with it, so I'm gonna go and film fast. If you go back to the video settings right here, navigate all the way down to the setup, the yellow tab, and we're gonna find dial customize, and there you can find dial customize for video. The video camera is the one below the photography logo. Now, the first one that I have changed is in the dial wheel. I've changed the number 3, which is just this wheel here, how it's spinning. Now it's not set to anything, and I've changed that to ISO. So instead of just clicking on the ISO and then scrolling, just by scrolling directly, you're changing the ISO. It's very easy to change. You just click on the button that you want to bind, click on it, and then you find whatever it is that you want to bind and click on that. Next thing that I changed was actually up here. And I did change the number 3, which used to be our ISO. So it's when I click here. I've changed that to peaking display. So now I can be really fast on getting this peaking display up. And now you've set up this button to be peaking display on and off. Next button I like is if you go all the way up to rear 1 and number 2, that is this button right here. I have it set to gamma display assist. So basically what this is, that when you're filming in like S-Log 3, it is really flat. By clicking on this, it's going to show you on the display what the colors would look like if you'd had, color graded it to, for instance, like a Rec 709 LUT. Like really just putting colors on it, but only on the display. And it's nice as assist, just so you can see, so not everything is super flat. I think it's nice. Then it's easy for me to keep, everything exposed and nice. So these are like the buttons that I've binded. I might change them or do anything different in the future, but at the moment, this is what I like to do. Now, this would obviously not be a complete tutorial if we didn't go through my photography settings too, and I'm going to show you that also. So in the photography, this is fairly easy. The first thing I like to do is to have it on full manual, and then we click menu. And if you navigate to shooting, I have here in file format. Now under that, we go to raw file type. I like to have lossless compressed raw file. That's the highest quality. JPEG quality, you can have extra fine. That's the highest amount of JPEG quality. And the aspect ratio I have here, 3:2.2. I don't know how to say that. And we click on that also. Now we can click the menu. We can click FN. Next, we can go to white balance. Now, white balance when you're shooting raw doesn't really matter that much because it's so easy to change it afterwards. However, I have there are two things that I think about here. Either I like to just shoot auto. The cameras are really good at finding the correct auto, like the white balance. And again, you can change it afterwards. But sometimes I'm shooting many photos at the same position. And when I edit them, I just like the white balance to be the same. Then it's easier to edit the sets together. So I may have a little, war inside, which I like more. For the sake of this tutorial, we can keep it in auto, but you could keep it just everything in daylight and then you change it afterwards. Just like something for you to think about too. You can have a war in your brain as well. And what was it more? Yeah, the focus mode. We have continuous autofocus, and then the focus area. I like to have this movable spot here. So you can just click it, and then it's so easy to change the spot. Once you set it, if you click on this middle button, boom, now we can move it around. And this is what I like most for photography. And remember also, just like in video, you can also click the screen here as well. And it's gonna even track your subject if that is something that you like. Now we go in menu, we scroll down to shooting mode, and we're gonna set camera, set memory. And the first one we are gonna set like this. And this is our full manual. So number 1 is our full manual raw. All right. Next up, everything is same in the settings, but we switch it to aperture priority. I like aperture priority a whole lot. I shoot a whole lot in run and gun situations, and aperture priority is just so good. And when it comes to the ISO, I usually have it set to auto right off the bat in the memory recall. But again, it's just this little scrolling here and you change it. So that's what I'm doing. So in menu now, we go memory recall and click 2 and bam. This is our aperture priority. All right. And then the third one, I like to have just JPEGs because sometimes I'm just photographing for the fun of it and not anything that I want to import in Lightroom and edit. It can be with my family or whatever. I love photography, but not all photos that I shoot are going to be like some masterpieces I want to edit or Sometimes it's just memory, sometimes it's just something simple. And then I have that on JPEG. So now we do just a JPEG. You can have it in the highest quality if you want, or just fine, whatever. You choose here. And then we do exactly the same, and we go into shooting mode and set the camera record settings to number 3. Now this is how I set up my Sony A6700 for both photography and filmmaking. But once you start to take photos, you're obviously gonna want to edit your photos because you wanna make them pop and like become bangers. And then this right here is how you should be editing your photos in Lightroom.